Greetings from Baku, Azerbaijan at COP29. I'm Valerie Hickey, the Global Director for Environment here at the World Bank IMF Financial Times Pavilion. And I'm delighted to be joined by Grace. Grace, introduce yourself to the team.
Dalafa Valerie. My name is Grace Malie, and I represent the beautiful islands of Tuvalu, my home, and also the Rising Nations Initiative.
What's the Rising Nations Initiative, Grace?
Great question. So, the Rising Nations Initiative is a branch under the Global Center for Climate Mobility that is focusing on Tuvalu, Kiribati, and the Republic of the Marshall Islands, and it aims to preserve the sovereignty and safeguard the rights, culture, and heritage, basically the identity of a Tuvaluan amidst the climate crisis.
Why are the Pacific Islands at the forefront of the climate crisis? What is it about them that makes them so vulnerable?
Well, I can speak for Tuvalu.
Yeah.
Tuvalu is, I'm sure everyone a lot of people have heard about climate change, and the first country that is associated with climate change impacts is Tuvalu.
Yeah.
And Tuvalu is, if you, the narrowest point of the island. If you look to your right and to your left, you'll see the lagoon and you'll see the ocean.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, and we have no mountains. And over the years, the impacts of climate change has increasingly worsened and impacted the lives of a Tuvaluan. And most of the Tuvaluan communities live along the coastlines. So if we were to have tropical cyclones, sometimes not even a cyclone, but a storm,
Yeah.
we'll have the seas coming into the homes and to the roads, and people will have nowhere to run to, because if you go to the other side, you'll have the ocean on the other side. So we have nowhere to run. We have no mountains. It's a flat island, and we only rely on rainwater as our main source of water.
Grace, remind people at home, how many people live in Tuvalu?
The number of people that we have in Tuvalu, less than 12,000 people.
You're here because you represent the Rising Nations Initiative, but also because you're a young person. And it must be in Tuvalu a question for you is that when you become a grandmother, please God, in 40, 50 years, are you still going to be able to live in Tuvalu? Do you think your grandchildren are going to be there?
That is my hope and my dream.
So what do we need to do here at COP to make that dream a reality?
This COP29 is on climate finance.
Yes.
And we've had so many discussions on loss and damage funds, adaptation, mitigation efforts, genuine partner relations between Tuvalu and our international communities, like the World Bank, donor partners. We should have these genuine partnerships that really look into the case of the Pacific Islands. And we have a very different situation compared to the rest of the world.
Yeah, of course, it's existential.
Yes, it is. And so we need to get these ambitions moving. The Paris Alignment Agreement. What happens from them? The 1.5 degrees.
1.5 alive,
yes,
right?
The Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. The Pacific Islands are really just moving about and trying to come about with any solutions that we can get at this point, because we really have no time and we're running out of time.
So what happens again? I mean, you're a young person. You must get frustrated with us old folks, because this is COP29, which means we've done this 28 years in a row, basically. We've had these meetings before. The seas are still rising.
Yes.
Fossil fuels are still there.
Yes.
And we know it's not easy, and nobody's suggesting the answers are easy. Nobody's suggesting there's enough money to fix every problem. But Tuvalu being at the forefront of the crisis with 12,000 people, what is it as a young person you want to tell the negotiators here at COP? You want to tell development partners like the World Bank, to whom Tuvalu, of course, is a co-owner. You're one of our owners.
Yes.
What do we need to do differently?
That's a very good question. Very, very good question. And I sometimes think about it when I'm at home. We ask about international solidarity, having everyone on board. And we have so many people on board, but I don't think there's enough. The G20 countries that are profiting off of these, off of the situation that we're doing, I just hope that they realize and they really think about what they're doing. Is it worth the profits that they're getting, that us having to live with these existential impacts, threats to our identities? So I think the main messages is to the main people who are profiting off of these things, to really think carefully, and not think carefully, to just be a human and realize that on the other side of the world, you have people who have dearly love their homes, who love their people, who wish to remain in their
Yeah.
homes.
But I mean, you must be talking to other young people, and it's not just Tuvalu. You're at the forefront; it's existential. But G20 countries like Spain have seen in this last several weeks the kind of flooding in Valencia that is destroying homes and families and communities and
Right.
companies. It's not just a faraway problem. So
Yeah.
when you talk to other young people, how do you think about combining into this coalition that can speak up and get us old folks to get serious?
I don't know how we can do that. We've done every bit
Yeah.
that we can,
Yeah.
but I think now we also have one of the superpowers that we have as a young generation is the youths is technology.
Yeah.
And technology
It
is
is a
quickly
superpower, huh?
evolving.
Yeah.
And I believe that we have so many youths out there who have the solutions,
Yeah.
but they're just not given the finance. They're not given the opportunities. They're not given capacity building sessions to progress with these solutions that they can bring
So are
to the
you
table.
able to have conversations with your home government, for example, in Tuvalu, with development partners like us at the bank, not just the conversation we're having here,
Right.
but about how do we ensure young people have access to funds like the Loss and Damage Fund, to the Global Environmental Facility, to World Bank financing itself? Are you able to have those conversations? Is that something that's happening? Or do you still feel there's a fight to be had to make sure that young people who, as you said, have good solutions, because you're living with the reality and you're going to have to live with it for another 70, 80 years, long past when I'm in the ground. Are you getting access to finance? You
We are
getting access to conversations around finance?
Yes, we are. We have access to finance, but it's very, the criteria to have those, to get that finance is very difficult, and it should be customized to how we are living in the Pacific and in Tuvalu. So it's still a fight.
Yeah.
To have our voices be heard in the government, to be honest. And that's why we have local NGOs who are targeting community-led projects. We have coral restoration projects. We have solar panel projects. We have water sanitation projects. Youths are taking the initiatives into their own hands and moving within their community, because we can't just sit down and do nothing about it.
Right. You've got the energy and you've got the stake in the future.
Yeah.
But it still can't be easy. What's one thing, for example, the World Bank can do better to help you?
That's a good question.
It's not an easy question,
Yeah.
though, is it? Yeah, it's always hard with us big behemoths. It can be difficult to figure out how can we do better, but it's a genuine question because we
It
want to
is.
do better. I mean, for us, ending poverty on a livable planet means making sure that countries as small as Tuvalu and as big as Brazil or Azerbaijan, where we're sitting here today, do well, and all families and communities, entire countries, can find a way past this climate crisis. So what can we do better?
That's a good question. Before I answer that question, can I flip it to you?
Yes.
If you could trace back time as a youth and you were given that question, what would be your answer?
It's a good question, and I was young many, many years ago, but I think for me, when I was young, one of the things that would drive me bananas was the fact that anytime folks talked about finance, it was always about the quantity of finance. We need more, more, more. And sure, that's right. But often I felt so much money is already being wasted because it's not being given to folks who have answers on the ground.
Yes.
I've always thought, even when I was young, that, success moves at the speed of trust. And you only build trust in projects when you're working with people who have a stake in the outcome of that project. And so make sure the money is getting to the ground. Make sure it's going to a broad array of stakeholders, because lots of answers come from lots of different places. There's no one person has the monopoly on the solution. And I think too often we still end up focusing on the quantity of money, not on the quality, which means talking about access, talking about impact. How do we measure our impact? How do we fail faster? I mean, last year, the World Bank, we invested almost $44 billion in climate finance, which is a lot of money.
It is.
We need to do better at making sure that we understand of that money, most of it is successful, but some of it isn't. We have to be honest. And how do we learn from that failure so that we can make sure other countries or other communities don't repeat the same mistakes? If we're going to make mistakes, let's make new ones.
That's a good
Does that make
answer.
sense to
No,
you?
it
Does it
actually
resonate
does.
a little bit?
Yes, it does. Even in Tuvalu, recently we had the World Bank president visit in Tuvalu.
Yes, that's right.
And
First
we
time.
first
Yes, it's
time.
amazing.
And
Yeah.
I just loved how the community and the island came together
Oh,
to
I
put
can
that up.
imagine.
Even
Yeah.
the region, everyone supported and assisted. But we also included the youths to be involved in a conversation
Yeah.
with the World Bank
Yeah.
president, which I think is a lifetime opportunity to have that, for him to voice and amplify our concerns. And one of the discussions that we had was that we see the work that is being done in Tuvalu. However, the community isn't aware of these things, and they do not know how they would profit, they would gain from
Right.
these
Yeah, yeah.
situations.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it needs to trickle down more into the community so that they could support more of the local NGOs. And those were some of the concerns that are used. So just like what you mentioned, it really is that. How do we get it into the community, and how can these communities use these? Because we have indigenous solutions.
Yeah.
We have indigenous knowledge that our ancestors have carried from generation to generation on how to do this, how to conserve this, how to sustain us with this.
So we need to marry bottom-up solutions with trickle-down finance. And if we do that, maybe the future of Tuvalu and your grandkids is secured. Grace, many, many
hope
thanks.
so.
Huh?
Yeah,
I'm glad we're working together on this.
me too.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.